A company from California is coming to Upson County, promising jobs, investment, and the solution to the world's plastic waste crisis. But residents tell 11ALIVE's Caitlin Ross they're worried it's bringing risk to their community. It's all in this story you'll only see on 11ALIVE.
All of the cows on Gwen Fuller's farm have a name.
Her name is Pie.
She knows each by heart.
This one's Freckles, Helen, and Graham. I like playing in the dirt. I love my animals.
But she says her heart is shattered by what's happening just beyond her fence line.
Makes me want to cry.
Tears over a $950 million plastics recycling plant backed by Brightmark.
This is part of the area that what Brightmark wants to build on.
The company calls it a circularity center, a massive 2.5 million square foot facility that promises to turn 400,000 tons of plastic into a fuel-like oil each year. Brightmark says it's a bold step against plastic pollution.
What land is going to be left?
But Fuller and her neighbors fear the only thing it will recycle is risk.
This is not just a business wanting to come here. This is everybody's life, not just ours.
And this is like a fuzzy one.
Hundreds of residents like Tracy Knapp are opposing it.
We don't want to see all these flowers disappear.
Forming an organized coalition and collecting signatures.
If Brightmark comes, we're going to have to start over.
In a statement to 11ALIVE News, Brightmark says it takes safety concerns seriously. It is working closely with local emergency response teams and will implement an emergency action plan that meets industry best practices and meets or exceeds regulatory requirements. But Knapp says LaGrange and Macon-Bibb County turned the project away. She thinks Upson County should too.
Other places told it no, and we said that we were for sale. And I think that's one of the most upsetting things.
I called a meeting to order.
We reached out to all 5 Upson County commissioners. Each declined to comment. We also contacted the chairman of the Thomaston-Upson Industrial Development Authority. He declined to speak on camera, but sent a written statement saying this state-of-the-art 2.5 million square foot manufacturing facility represents a powerful step forward in the community's economic future.
Down here, they're going to be self-monitoring.
But former IDA Commissioner Rusty Blackston says he's not convinced those promises will hold. Brightmark's Indiana facility, the only other one of its kind, recently filed for bankruptcy. Court records show it failed to turn a profit and needed more than $100 million in additional investments just to keep operating.
It's not a good fix for our community.
Blackston says that raises red flags, and he's gathered 600 signatures to stop the project in Upson County.
We may not win the war, but we're going to give them a battle.
Back at Gwen Fuller's farm, she says she's not fighting for politics or profits. She's fighting for the life she built here.
It's been a good place to live. It's been a good place to raise her family. Now I'm just really concerned about the future of all of that.
Reporting in Thomaston, Caitlin Ross, 11ALIVE News.
Now, Caitlin, thank you so much for bringing us that. A powerful piece. You spend a lot of time with these families. What was the biggest takeaway for you?
Well, it's just how personal it is to them. It's not just a farm. It's not just their land. It's their legacy, and they want to protect that. Gwen Fuller told me she's had some of these cows for generations. One neighbor said they built their home before Brightmark ever showed up, and now they're the ones being asked to move. There's a deep sense of grief and anger because they feel like this decision was made without them.
And you know what? That grief and that anger, that's a lot of emotion that we saw play out in this piece. Why do residents feel like this plant is threatening their way of life?
It's really the environmental impact that they're concerned about. They are worried that some of this plastic runoff, this residue, could be flammable, it could be toxic, it could impact their water supply, their crops, their farmland. The only way to get in and out of this area to bring a lot of stuff in is by the railway. And so they're like, well, what if there's a crash on the railway? What are we going to do there? They're worried that they don't have the infrastructure or the emergency response to take care of a huge catastrophe.
And we saw the economic promises made there. What do residents think about this whole process of how that's coming along?
So they're not sure whether or not those economic promises will be delivered. Brightmark says that there will be 200 jobs making a median of $50,000 a year. This would be a big deal for that area. Upson County is a poverty-stricken county. There are a lot of people who go outside the county for work. So the people who are championing this project feel like this would keep residents inside the county to work, and they would be good paying jobs people could work at.
I want to ask you about a line from Gwen. It says, "It makes me want to cry. That was heartbreaking." What is driving that level of emotion in this fight?
Yeah, it's the legacy, really. It's they feel like everything that they've worked so hard for is going to be destroyed, that they really enjoy living in this rural place where they can raise animals and they can have chickens that give them eggs every morning. And if there's some sort of environmental catastrophe, all of that will be ruined. And a lot of this is about ifs and whens because they don't know exactly how this is going to happen. At one of the meetings, Brightmark said that they were learning day by day. They were learning new things about the industry every day. And the point the residents are making is, we don't want to be your guinea pig. We don't want you learning things on the fly here. We want you to make sure that you have this process down pat before you bring it to our backyard.
And speaking of their backyard, it's a rural one, right?
Yes.
But the economic growth, the job growth, the money that's promised here, I mean, that's got to be kind of interesting to people in this community. But like you said, there's kind of a give and take here.
Right, and so the IDA, that's the point that they make, is that this is really important for the development of the county, that bringing more dollars in is going to really impact the way of life there. They're saying that the county has less than 30,000 people, wages are below the state average, and so a promise of nearly 200 jobs paying over $50,000 a year, that's a big deal. That's why the Industrial Development Authority backed it, and they told me in a statement that this is one of the most significant projects in the region's history, and that Brightmark has been a strong partner throughout.
So, of course, there is the bankruptcy aspect of all of this. What are people saying about that?
So it's a lot of questions. If this Indiana plant is not able to turn a profit, why do they believe that the Georgia plant will? So a lot of those red flags are waving very brightly for people who live here in Georgia. Brightmark's Indiana facility is the only other one like it in the country, and it just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Court records show the facility could not turn a profit and needed more than $100 million in additional investment. But Brightmark says their parent company is financially stable and that the bankruptcy was a strategic move to restructure. But for people in Upson County, it raises serious doubts about whether the company can deliver on those promises.
Now, county leaders, they've been pretty tight-lipped on this. They haven't really said anything about this?
They've said nothing about it, which is one of the strangest things of this whole thing. We talked to all of them over and over and over again, asking them for comment. This is a huge deal that's going to impact every person who lives in the county, and every single one of them declined our request for interviews or even comment. We asked the chairman of the IDA to talk with us on camera. He also declined. He gave us a written statement saying the project will bring jobs and boost the economy, but residents told me it's hard to trust a decision that's being made behind closed doors. It's the lack of transparency that's made people even more suspicious.
And when you were talking about that, that was the one word that came to mind was transparency. What are they hiding, if anything? Why are they being tight-lipped about it? Something that I'm sure you will stay on top of. But the big question is, what is next for this community?
So they're waiting on the permitting process right now, so it's not a done deal yet. They're not breaking ground. Brightmark says they plan to file for their Georgia air permit soon, but the Georgia Department of Economic Development told us they won't release any state grant money until Brightmark proves the Indiana facility is fully operational and commercially viable. So it's a bit of a holding pattern. Meanwhile, people like Gwen Fuller tell 11ALIVE they're not going anywhere, and they're going to fight this with everything they have.
And I'm sure they will. Caitlin, thank you so much for bringing us this very important, very interesting topic. It's something that you will stay on top of.
Absolutely.
And we will continue to bring updates as we get them. Thank you all so much for joining us here at 11ALIVE. We'll see you next time.